Hi, I'm Leigh Johnson from Proud-autistic Coaching. Now, I've shared many pieces of my autism diagnosis story in my blog and in my videos, but I realized I haven't told the whole story in one place yet. So I'd like to share in order to show that it can be a very roundabout process, and the realization can take a long time, even when things are right in front of you. Buckle up. This is a long one. I have a lot of different pieces to this story, and I am decided that since I love puzzles, and I always have, I view my journey as a series of puzzle pieces locking together to create a full picture. Not to be associated with the ableist autism puzzle piece logo and symbol that some people use. That is not the puzzle piece I'm talking about. I can't say I will never look at another puzzle piece again, though, because of that, because I love puzzles. So here are my puzzle pieces. Number one, the paternity surprise. This is a much larger story that I may share someday, but in early December 2019, I found out that the dad who raised me was not my birth father. To say this was a shock is a massive understatement. At the same time, I found out that my birth father had another daughter, my new half-sister. I had this incredible urge to visit her and her mother to learn more about my birth father because he had passed away 5 years earlier. So I flew to Tucson on New Year's Day. There's so much more I could share about this experience, but I want to focus on a key conversation I had with my sister on that trip. She asked me if I ever thought I might be neurodivergent because she was pretty sure that our father was autistic and had ADHD. I laugh now that my response was a pretty certain no. I thought I knew what these things looked like and didn't think they applied to me. But this was a critical first puzzle piece because I needed that family history to complete the picture. I also found out that my birth father was hypermobile and had many Ehlers-Danlos syndrome traits, which helped me get my hypermobile EDS diagnosis a few months later. It turns out that knowing your accurate family medical history is pretty important. Who knew? Leads me to puzzle piece number 2, an accurate understanding of autism. Around March 2020, at the same time the world was shutting down, I was working on a project for the equity committee at my daughter's elementary school. Each year, we planned a book club for parents around a topic that promoted inclusion and understanding. This year, we wanted to focus on neurodivergence, and I had volunteered to find the best book for the topic, as I'd done in the past. I did my usual research and checked about 10 books out of the library to peruse. This was when the wool started to come off my eyes. I couldn't believe how little I had known about what autism really looked like. And within that new understanding came a recognition of myself in those traits I was reading about. I started to wonder. I brought it up with my therapist, who I'd been seeing for about 5 years, and she practically scoffed at me, telling me it wasn't likely that I was autistic. She seemed to see me as a hypochondriac when I was trying to understand myself. So I set my ideas aside, but continued to learn about autism through social media and books. And just a little aside here, I now realize that my inclination to go check 10 books out of the library in order to find one on the topic for the book club was maybe a little key, little hint that I should have seen that I was autistic. Now I can look back on it and see that. Puzzle piece 3, sensory processing disorder. As I shared in my last video, I realized in the summer of 2020 that I had major sensory sensitivities. The pandemic shutdown was a critical part of this realization because I needed a break from my sensory overwhelm to realize that it was happening. I proceeded to see an occupational therapist who diagnosed me with sensory processing disorder and helped me with a sensory diet. And though it wasn't part of our discussions, I knew from my research that sensory challenges were related to autism. So it gave me even more evidence and another important puzzle piece. Puzzle piece number 4, an official diagnosis. Finally, in fall of 2020, I decided to pursue an official diagnosis with a local psychologist who looked to have a good track record with diagnosing women. I learned through social media that many psychologists don't understand what autism looks like in women and can tell women that they can't be autistic because they make eye contact or because they're married, etc. But I had the best experience with my diagnosis, and after a very anxious few weeks of online meetings and waiting, she told me that I'm autistic. It's hard to describe how I felt in that moment. On the one hand, I felt so validated. After dealing with people not recognizing or even denying my autism for so long, it felt amazing to be told that I did know myself well enough to know what fit me. And after a lifetime of receiving other diagnoses like depression, borderline, and personality disorder that never seemed to fit right, I had the answer. But on the other hand, I felt enormous grief. For one, I felt like I was broken beyond repair. My then husband confirmed this feeling by recommending that I not tell people about my autism. My internalized ableism had a tight hold on me then, and I felt a lot of shame in my diagnosis, and I listened and didn't tell many people about it. And in addition, I was grieving the fact that for 42 years I had struggled without the critical information that could have helped me all along. It was not a fun feeling, and I was facing it in a lot of ways alone. I hadn't found an autistic community yet. I wasn't telling many people, just really my closest friends. And I already mentioned how my therapist had dismissed my thoughts that I was autistic, so she wasn't a very good person to go to. So it took a long time to kind of recover from that feeling, and a lot of things that helped I'll put in other videos. And I just wanted to talk about how this process went for me. These 4 puzzle pieces brought me on my journey to get a clear picture of myself as an autistic adult. So now I want to help others on that journey. I want to provide accurate information about autism, along with stories that others can relate to, and know that you don't need to hide your autism. You don't need to change your autism. And I want to provide sensory empowerment support, helping others through managing their sensory systems as autistic adults. I want to ease the internalized ableism and shame that many autistic adults feel. I want to share resources and tips for autistic self-care. I want to give others a framework for becoming proud autistic adults themselves. So check out my other video about my sensory awakening if you're curious about that. And check out my links to my other resources, particularly my sensory empowerment program, and see how that can help you if you're on your way to your autistic awakening. I also have another video about how to kind of steps to take after you've figured out that you are autistic, whether through an official diagnosis or not. So I will link that video here, and please stay in touch and take care. Bye.